I'll unmute my mic and my desktop so they can hear us. Hello, everyone. Please give me a sign in the chat if you can hear that we have begun. And you can actually hear my microphone. I always want to make sure that that's up top for the number of times I've started a stream and ranted for many minutes and just silence. So give me a sign. See Lulu P in the chat. Hello. Woo, you can hear me. Wonderful. Well, welcome to the third annual AnimState of the Industry Panel Survey stream. My name is Lana Bashinsky, and I am here on behalf of AnimState, a community of professional animators dedicated to promoting, inspiring, and advancing the craft of interactive animation. Those of you who may have seen this panel as a part of the Animation Exchange in years past may be thinking, hey, where's that Mike Jungluth guy? Well, I'm so glad you asked. He was originally going to be hosting today, but unfortunately he's feeling a little bit under the weather. So you get me instead. But can we put some hearts in the chat to make sure that Mike feels the love? Get well soon, Mike. We miss you. We love you. Hearts in the chat. My friends and colleagues, we are here today to discuss the AnimState of the Industry panel, an anonymous survey where we polled professionals about the most important issues across animation and game development, including compensation, remote work, work-life balance, and diversity and inclusion. But luckily, you don't actually have to hear me try to pretend that I know what to do with all of that raw data, which is why I'm delighted to introduce you to Adam Clark. Hi, Adam.
Howdy, pleasure to be here.
Adam is a real-life data scientist who will be sharing the survey results, after which we will have an open Q&A in the chat. If you have a question at any time during the presentation, we will not interrupt the presentation to ask it. However, do please post it so you don't forget. Make sure that you tag AnimState in the chat so I can see it. I will be grabbing all the questions that I see and asking them to Adam as soon as the presentation concludes. After the Q&A, we'll take a short break and transition to our Game Developer Roundtable, where 5 professionals will discuss and share their personal thoughts on the survey results, so make sure that you stay tuned. But now, without further ado, please take it away, Adam.
Thank you very much, Lana. Right. And all right, welcome, folks. I'm just getting things set up at this moment. Bear with me. All right, can I get some confirmation that it is showing?
That's looking at you, chat. Confirmation, Spicy Miso GG is confirmed. They can see it.
All right, confirmed. All right, well, welcome to the third annual AnimState of the Industry Survey. My name is Adam Clark, and here's just a little bit of information about me. I have a master's degree from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln in quantitative qualitative psychometric methodology. I was brought on board after the collection of this data from this round to go through your wonderful results and create a wonderful survey, or presentation rather, from said results. So we're going to get really right into this because we have a lot to cover today. And to start off with, let's talk about how many people responded to this survey. We have 373 responses this year, and that is the largest we have seen as of yet. That's amazing. Of these respondents, we have 85% being full-time employees. We have 69% of individuals working at a AAA studio, and 66% of respondents are from the North America region. But what do they do in the animation industry? Well, 70% of our respondents were animators. That's 260 in total. We have 21% or 78 individuals who are technical animators. We have 6% or 21 people who are programmers, and 23% or 86 people who are leads and or directors. Of these individuals, 78% identified as white, 74% identified as cisgender men, 21% responded as cisgendered women, and 14% identified as either agender, closeted, intersex, non-binary, questioning, trans, and or gender fluid. And this category, to shorten it a bit throughout the rest of the presentation, shall be referred to as non-cisgendered individuals. So getting into the data, the first section we're going to be talking about today is compensation. So here we have average or the percent of individuals responding with their salary per year. So this is looking specifically at full-time employment compensation, the orange line representing 2021 and blue line representing 2022. Each dot being the total amount or total percent of people per each salary category across the entire amount of respondents. So as we can see here for 2022, we actually see looking at the less than $40,000 region to about the $100,000 region, we see that less respondents are reporting having a salary within that range as compared to 2021. Whereas for beyond that $100,000 range, we actually see for 2022 more individuals are responding that they have that salary as compared to 2021. So that's just a quick dip first into salary, but what kind of additional compensation are we receiving in 2022 versus what was reported in 2021? Well, as you can see here, annual bonuses, performance-based shares, annual raises, and overtime have decreased actually. So less people are reporting having received this as a type of compensation this year as compared to 2021. However, shipping bonus and annual shares actually are reported as increasing a bit. This is an interesting phenomenon, as it seems like seeing how both the shipping bonuses and annual shares are increasing, perhaps the types of compensation that we are receiving are a bit more tied to the actual production and or success of the studio. So talking about that compensation, we just have a overall poll here saying how much do you feel that you are appropriately compensated for your work? We see that the majority of individuals, this is from almost the entire survey, 369 individuals, most people feel somewhat satisfied. That is that level 4 right here, representing somewhat satisfied, 5 being very satisfied, and 1 being not at all satisfied. But most of the individuals fall within feeling neutral to very satisfied about uh, the additional or their overall compensation for the work. So this is just looking at full-time employment salary by years of experience. So in the bottom left hand of the graph, we see less than 1 year of experience all the way to over 25 years of experience with about a range of 5 years per category. Blue line, once again, representing 2022, orange line representing 2021. And the additional lines here that are going horizontally across the graph represent a rough estimate of what is considered the quote unquote living wage for both LA and Vancouver, respectively. As you can see, between 2021 and 2022, we don't actually see that much difference or deviation in the trend across years of experience. However, we do see there is obviously that very strong positive trend that if you have more years of experience in the industry, your salary tends to increase. But let's look at the same thing, but for contractor rates. And this is something, there's some phenomenon here that I find particularly interesting. If we look at the bottom two categories, that less than $25 an hour to that $50 an hour range, we see that less people are responding that they have that contractor rate as compared to 2021. And in fact, the next two levels up at $51 to $75 an hour to $76 to $100 an hour, we see more individuals this year responding that is their rate or typical rate is within those two rate brackets. So overall, it seems like the average rate for contractors is on the rise, which is great. And this is related to the bar graph we saw above, but this is specifically just looking at contractors and seeing if they are satisfied with their compensation that they receive. And it looks on average comparable to the overall graphic that we saw above. And finally, this is contractor rates, the average reported contractor rate across years of experience or years worked. And we see even on the left-hand side at that less than 1 year of experience in the games industry, we see that on average, people with that amount of experience are still demanding a a more contract, a larger wage, I should rather say, than less than $25 an hour. And I believe this should be a pretty strong metric to gauge yourself if you are independent or working as a contractor for a studio, that don't undersell yourself. Even with less than 1 year of experience, the average contracting rate is above less than $25 an hour. All right, section 2, related to compensation, we're going to be talking about income inequality. So this is just a slight breakdown for West Coast versus Central and East Coast for specifically the US, going by certain brackets of years of experience. For this one, it's 6 to 10 years of experience. And really what should be noted here is that for the West Coast, which you can see on the left here, that our minimum range starts at 80,000, whereas compared to the East Coast, it starts at 60,000. And however, we see for the Central and East Coast that their range, their maximum range, I should say, goes to 200,000, whereas for the West Coast, we're seeing 190 to 199,000. So while people might start off at in the 6 to 10 year bracket with a higher minimum, they're not reaching as far as those in the US Central or East Coast, which goes more than 200,000. Same idea, but talking about this for the 11 to 15 years of experience, folks. For the West Coast, we see, once again, a higher minimum at that $100,000 range compared to the Central and East Coast, which is at 50 to 59,000 range. And we see the same maximum for both sides. So what this is really telling us is that if you're on the West Coast with that 11 to 15 years of experience, you can expect to start off in your, let's say, 11th year at a higher rate than what is expected on the Central and East Coast. And finally, for 16 to 20 years of experience, and this is just talking about total compensation, we see that the range for this goes from 70,000 to 200,000. Okay. So that's a lot of information breakdown for animators in general, but let's actually talk about the average full-time employment salary across all the positions that we had available on the survey. So calculating the average salary reported for each position, we get this graphic here. You see on the left-hand side, animators on average have the lowest average reported salary, somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000, followed by producers, followed by outsource managers, followed by technical animators. Then we see a big jump here to lead and directors on the right-hand side. And then finally, we see the highest average reported salary belongs to programmers. So let's take a look at this a bit more in depth. This is full-time employment salary, once again, averaged by years worked, but we're comparing animators versus all other positions. So the blue line on this graphic represents animators, and the orange line represents all other positions that people reported as being on the survey. And we can see a clear distinction between these two lines across all the years of experience. We see that at every category, animators are paid less than all the other ones. All the other positions, I should say, or at least the average of all other positions. So going on, we're going to focus on tech animators for a second. And this is just going by region, by years of experience, but instead of just talking about the coasts of the US, we are talking about global regions. So for 1 to 5 years of experience for technical animators, we see compensation range between less than 40,000 to 69,000 USD. For Canada, that's 70,000 to 89,000 USD. For the United States, the biggest range, it's 60,000 to 160,000 USD. Now, looking at this for the 6 to 10 years of experience, and please note that for this, we have a bit of a limited data for the 6 to 10 years of experience. So we have the most data for Europe and United States. We see 40,000 to 99,000, and for United States, we see 70,000 to all the way to 200,000 USD. Now, for the 11 to 15 years of experience, we see Canada is back. For Europe, we're seeing 80,000 to 139,000, Canada to 40,000 to 149,000, and United States 50,000 to 200,000. And finally, for over 16 years of experience, we see United States 110,000 to 200,000 and above. So here's what that looks like, comparing once again average salary and full-time employment salary, technical animators versus non-technical. And we see when we compare the average of technical versus the average of everybody else, we see that technical, for the most part, is paid higher per years of experience, per each bracket of years of experience, I should say, compared to the others. Now let's look at the same thing, but for lead and directors. So for the 1 to 5 years of experience, we see Europe at that 40,000, 69,000, whereas for United States, we see 80,000 to 139,000. For 6 to 10 years of experience, we see for Europe, it's less than 40,000 to 79,000. And for United States, it's 80,000 to 200,000. And for 11, 15 years of experience, we see for Europe, it's 80,000 to 159,000. Canada, it's 90,000 to 149,000. And for United States, it's 80,000 to 200,000. And finally, for that 16 to 20 years of experience, we see United States, once again, 120,000 to 200,000. And over 20 years, Europe is 110,000, 200,000. Canada is 80,000, 200,000, and 130,000 to 200,000 for United States. Now, the average for this and the graphic depicting the averages, this is leads versus the average for everybody else. We see it's a bit of a slow takeoff for leads and directors in terms of that 1 to 5 to about the 11 to 15 years of experience marks here denoted on the bottom. Also note that leads, we get our preliminary data starting at that 1 to 5 years, probably because there's not many leads with less than 1 year of experience in the industry. But starting slow with the increase in rate or in FTE salary, we see that quickly takes off at that 11 to 15 mark, and it keeps on increasing across the years, and it outpaces the average of all the other positions by quite a bit. Now, looking beyond the positions, I wanted to look at annual FTE salary by the years of experience, but each line representing a different gender, or group of genders, I should say. So our orange line represents cisgendered men, our green line represents cisgendered women, and our purple line represents non-cisgendered individuals. The red line just representing the aggregated average of all of those lines. And we can see here, looking on the left-hand side, all of our data is actually pretty squashed together, which means there isn't that much deviation across genders in terms of pay for the people, let's say, getting into the industry with less than 1 year to that 1 to 5 years of experience, 6 to 10. But once you get beyond 6 to 10, we see some wild deviations and differences in salary across genders. I will say, please note that for both cisgendered women and non-cisgender individuals, that our data is curtailed to the left for a bit. That's because we did not have any respondents from our data set who were either cisgender women or non-cisgender individuals reporting having experience or years of experience beyond 16 to 20 or 21 to 25, respectively, for non-cisgender individuals and cisgendered women. Also to note, is that at those two data points, that 16 to 20 for non-cisgender individuals and 21 to 25 for cisgendered women, that our data is a bit sparse, but it is still worth putting in there. And because somebody at that level reporting that gender reported having that salary. Also looking at full-time employment salary by years worked across ethnicity. The blue line represents white individuals, and the red line represents people of color. As you can see, kind of mimicking what we saw with the gender graphic, at the beginning on the left, we see salary is actually put pretty close together. There isn't that much deviation in that less than 1 year all the way to about that 6 to 10 year. But that's when we start to see deviations occur once again. And there's no real clear set trend after that point because we can see the lines overlap each other at different points. But also, please do note that for the people of color line, it ends at that 21 to 25 years of experience due to the same reason that I stated for the non-cisgender individuals and the cisgendered women. Okay, so let's talk about struggles and satisfaction. So how satisfied are we? And this is a breakdown of satisfaction across the different categories that you could respond with for 2021 versus 2022. Orange, once again, being 2021, blue being 2022. And as you can see here, for 2022, we see less people responding with the neutral and the very satisfied category. And we see more people for 2022 responding with the somewhat unsatisfied and the somewhat satisfied categories. Now, breaking this down or looking at it rather in a different way, we can look at leads and non-leads and the average satisfaction level between those two groups of individuals. So we actually don't see that much of a difference, actually. For non-leads, we see that their satisfaction level is somewhere between neutral and somewhat satisfied. And for leads and directors, we see just about the same, if not just a little bit closer to somewhat satisfied. But if we break this down even further and look at the response rate between each level of satisfaction, something of interest should be shown to the right-hand side here. With the very satisfied category, we see that actually more leads and directors responded with that category compared to their very satisfied companions in the non-lead group. And the same can be said, but vice versa, for the somewhat satisfied group, and then once again flipped again for the neutral group. Now we're going to look at satisfaction, job satisfaction specifically by different factors of the workplace. So the first one we're going to look at is work-life balance. And as you can see here with the red line, that disregarding the differences between each category per year and just looking at the overall trend from not at all balanced to very balanced, we see a somewhat strong positive trend between work-life balance and job satisfaction. Specifically, it seems that as work-life balance becomes more and more balanced, an individual's average level of satisfaction increases. This is just a breakdown of the 2022 responses per satisfaction category. What should really be noted with this one is that on the far right, for the very satisfied, we see that the highest reported category under the very satisfied category is very balanced, outpacing somewhat balanced by, about 11%. And we can actually see on the far left-hand side with the not at all satisfied, people is a pretty even split between all the different categories, but it just seems like people with every level of work-life balance rather can be still not at all satisfied with their job. So another factor here, average satisfaction by amount of training provided in the workplace. So as you can see, there really isn't that much difference reported between 2021 and 2022 in terms of the satisfaction level, but it is still an interesting phenomenon that that training provides a very or has a very strong relationship between itself and average satisfaction. And it seems a rather strong one. If we look here, going from not at all satisfied to very much so, or not at all, no training whatsoever, I should say, to a lot of training, we see average satisfaction increase dramatically. And here's just the breakdown for the 2022 responses for this one. As you can see on the far left, the not all satisfied, 62.5% of individuals who said they were not at all satisfied also reported having no training whatsoever. And comparing that to the very satisfied category on the right, we see that between the some and very much so responses for training, we're averaging that to be about 84% across those two categories. Percent of individuals say that they've gotten either a lot of training or some training and are very satisfied. Okay, so let's look at average satisfaction by career growth opportunities. And it's just the opportunity to grow in your career in the workplace. And as we can see, we have once again another strong trend between the amount of workplace opportunities and the average satisfaction of the individual. Starting at the not at all, we see trending really close to the somewhat unsatisfied, going all the way to the right, to the very much so in terms of amount of career growth opportunities. And we see them trending towards very satisfied. Once again, we don't see that much change in satisfaction levels between the years, except that across all the different categories, we just see satisfaction is a bit lower in 2022 versus 2021. So here's the breakdown for this one. This is 2022 responses. On the left are not all satisfied. We see a staggering 81% of individuals saying that who say that they are not at all satisfied also say they don't have any opportunities for career growth. And once again, no opportunities for career growth being the dominating factor in the somewhat unsatisfied group. Comparing that to the very satisfied group, where we actually see very much so and some cumulatively, that looks about 76% of individuals saying they at least receive some or very much so in terms of career growth opportunities. And let's talk about satisfaction by confidence and leader. Once again, we see that strong positive trend between confidence in leaders and average satisfaction. If we go across here, we also see that there really isn't that much of a difference, once again, between the different years within each response category. Now, I will just say to take note of this, is it that the confidence in their leader affects their satisfaction in their job, or is it their already standing job satisfaction affecting their confidence in their leader? Chicken before the egg. Well, looking at the breakdown here, once again, if we look to the far right with the very satisfied group, we see predominantly people are very satisfied, are also very confident in their leader. Where if we look to the not all satisfied group, we still see, some confidence at 44%, but no one reporting that they're very confident. And we actually do see, starting from neutral down, we really start seeing that not very confident and not at all confident appearing. And here's another one, average satisfaction by user friendliness of the tools used in the workplace. And we can see not the strongest trend across not user-friendly at all versus very user-friendly, but there does seem to be a slight trend here. Once again, not much change between years within each level. And the breakdown kind of shows that there's not much difference in the distributions within each category compared to each other. And I thought this was a fun one to put in, just seeing average satisfaction by engine used. We have, starting from the right, Unreal, then we have Unity, we have proprietary engines, which is a below of different engines used, Source, that kind of idea, Frostbite. And then we have other. which is a bit of a catch-all for engines we're not really sure about, or are not proprietary, nor are they Unity nor Unreal. And there really wasn't that much of a pattern or significant difference across those different engines. However, something that I found interesting and worth bringing up is that if you look at the not all satisfied group, the majority of individuals report using Unreal. Well, if you look at the very satisfied group, you also have the largest majority of individuals saying they use Unreal. So what's going on with Unreal? Is it either do you love it or you hate it? I would like to know. And this is mapping average satisfaction by full-time employment salary. I've charted both 2021 and 2022. And as you can see, there is no trend. We don't see a trend between satisfaction with individual's job and their full-time employment salary. Also, what can be gleaned from this is that if you look at the lines for 2021, 2022, just the entire lines for each, you can see that we're at about the same level of satisfaction overall as we were last year. And this is the average compensation in USD by satisfaction. As you can see, there really doesn't appear to be that much trend here. However, if you look at the somewhat satisfied and not all satisfied, I think it should just be interesting to note that they are both the largest categories or the highest amount in terms of average reported compensation in USD. However, one of them is not at all satisfied, and one of them is only somewhat satisfied. So there doesn't seem to be that trend that we're looking for. So going through all these factors, we decided to do an analysis. So we were trying to figure out which of these factors that we discussed actually and statistically provable contribute to job satisfaction. So to do this, I implemented an OLS multiple regression through the software SPSS. What's a OLS multiple regression? Well, for the sake of time, it's stats. It's a statistical analysis. And we can use this regression to investigate which factors most impact job satisfaction. So from all the factors listed above, I used compensation in USD, amount of training provided, number of career growth opportunities, work-life balance, number of hours worked per week, confidence in animation leader, degree of tools user friendliness, and a bit more that you'll see in just a second. So the overall model significantly predicted job satisfaction. About 43% of job satisfaction was explained by the variables that were used in this analysis. In social science terms, just know that 43% is actually quite a big number. So of those variables that we're talking about, amount of training provided, opportunities for career growth, work-life balance, confidence in animation leaders, all significantly predicted job satisfaction. These are factors that, statistically speaking, we could say with like a 95 degrees percent of certainty actually affected job satisfaction. Of the ones that were not significantly did not significantly predict job satisfaction, we have hours worked per week, user friendliness of side tools, and compensation in USD. So I really focused in on the compensation in USD, and I decided to repeat the entire analysis with all the factors, just replacing compensation in USD with just full-time employment salary. And then I ran it again with contract wage or the freelance contract. And I did that each individually. And all of these monetary factors were non-significant in predicting job satisfaction. Of the significant factors that I looked at, opportunities for career growth carried the most predictive weight. It was had the strongest relationship with job satisfaction. This is followed in order by confidence in the leader, work-life balance, and training provided. This is just some figures. I have this here for if you want to look at this. This is how I got this information, and this is basically the output of the analysis. So really what I feel like the key takeaways to this mini analysis should be is that the amount of training provided, opportunities for career growth, work-life balance, and confidence in animation leaders should be focused on in order to improve job satisfaction. Of these, particular attention should be paid to allowing for more opportunities for career growth within the studio and increasing confidence and leadership. Now, I would like your opinions and ideas on how to increase both of these. So we spent a lot of time talking about satisfaction, but what about struggles? Well, if we look at the industry level perceived struggles, 2021 versus 2022, we see that compensation, culture, hiring, leadership, and production have all increased notably from last year. Now, looking at the ones who did not increase, we have capture, creative, knowledge sharing, and tech. So these either decreased just a bit or stayed the same. Either way, the overall story that seems to be playing from this is that of the perceived industry struggles from last year, not many have decreased at all, really. And in fact, many of the factors have increased in at least the perception of everyone who responded to this survey. Now, looking at the same idea, but for your own studio and the struggles within your studio, we see that factors such as compensation, creative, hiring, and production have all increased notably, with the same kind of phenomenon happening for all the other ones that did not increase. We see they're held actually relatively constant across 2021 versus 2022. So once again, at least comparing it to last year, we're not seeing that decrease in problems, and in fact, it seems like individuals are starting to, on average, pick up on more problems. And something that I found was interesting is looking directly at creative, which is right here. If we go back to the industry level, we see that both of those are about 20.4%. Well, if we go to the studio level, we see that specifically for 2022, we're seeing 29%. And this is repeated across, pardon, different categories, such as hiring as well, which we see for the studio level is actually much larger in terms of reported perceived struggles than at the industry level as well. Maybe it's that firsthand experience with the studio that allows people to more confidently say, yes, this is a struggle that we are having. So we're looking at a lot of struggles here, but let's look at this stretched out on a multiple line graph. And each one of these lines represents a different one of those struggles that we talked about, but we're mapping it out across different levels of satisfaction. So we can see what is the most reported struggle for each level of satisfaction. So as for example, starting from the left here, we can see that leadership all the way at the top here with this line is the most reported struggle at the studio level for people who are not all satisfied. Now, what's interesting about this one is that if we go all the way to the right here and look at the bottom point, that's also leadership, and it is the lowest uh, reported struggle for individuals who reported being very satisfied. And in fact, the highest reported struggle for individuals who are very satisfied is hiring. Now, my hypothesis here is that the largest majority of individuals reported being very satisfied. It kind of showed it when we broke it out across leadership and non-leadership. I believe quite a fair amount of people in leadership positions answered very satisfied. And that might be why we're seeing hiring as the big problem and not leadership. I would also like to point out that the most reported category for those middle categories between somewhat unsatisfied and somewhat satisfied is, in fact, production. And the lowest, for the most part, across all the categories is outsourcing. So looking towards the future with all of this, what are we worried about? Well, our highest worry right now is culture in the industry and production, actually, followed by tech, external development, workflows, capture, creativeness, DCC, and community. What are we excited for? People are excited for creative aspects and opportunities looking forward, and they're also excited for the burgeoning tech that's happening within the industry. This is a bit of a transition to what we'll be talking about next, but let's also just look at work from home and job satisfaction. So for individuals who report working in the office now, we see a pretty similar level of satisfaction as those who are currently working from home, although we see a slightly higher average for individuals working from home. And I do believe that we're seeing this right now is because for the people who are working in office at this moment have probably elected to work there because it's their preferred place of work. So I think we are actually seeing individuals who are in their preferred workplace at this moment, for the most part. So speaking of work from home, let's talk about remote and work from home. So a little bit of note for this category before we really get started with it. This data was recorded as of, February 2022, which is about 5 to 6 months ago. And for most topics, this feels like it would be okay. But for work from home, which is a dynamic and rapidly changing factor in the industry, as I'm sure some of you would know, um, we're going to take this section at a bit of a faster pace and really just say that this is a reflection of what work from home was at the time of the data collection. So currently for 2022, we saw that work from home was 95.6% of the respondents' current working state, whereas only 4.4% of respondents reported working in the office. 2021 versus 2022 work from home status, we actually see that for 2022, that 4.4% of people work in office is an increase from 0% in 2021. And looking at if the studio individual or respondent works at actually currently supports work from home, we see only 1.1% of studios reported as not currently supporting work from home, whereas 98.9% of studios do support work from home. So this is the current work from home support, but this is just a breakdown between the different years. We actually see that we are seeing an increase in the amount of studios that are in fact supporting work from home from 86% to 98%. And the corollary to that is the decrease does not support work from home from 14% in 2021 to only 1.1% in 2022. Now, looking at the studio's future plans for work from home, we see that for the overall majority, most studios are supporting either a hybrid work week, work from home from 2 to 3 days a week, or a permanent always work from home strategy. And that takes up over half of the respondents. Then we also see a 19% to be determined. The studio does not have a policy yet, and only a 4.2% of studios reporting now 5 days a week of on-site work. So looking at this breakdown, comparing it to last year's results, once again, we see that hybrid work from home and always work from home are on the rise as compared to last year's respondents, going up from 26 to 38% for that hybrid work week, from 14 to 37% for the always work from home. And for the to be determined, no official policy yet, we see a sharp decrease from 58% to 19.4%. And though it's small, I think it's a very interesting fact that we're even seeing studios who had made up their mind going from 5 days a week of on-site work, going down about 1.8%, 6% to 4.2, meaning maybe a studio out there actually said, no, we're not this isn't what we want to do. So this is studio remote work future plans, and remote work here being, some of you may know, logging in from and working in a place that's across the country or across state or even just quite a long distance away from you, as to be contrasted to work from home, which is generally just the idea of working from home in a place that you might have traditionally worked at uh, in the past. So for remote work specifically, we see 67.6% of studios plan to support that in the future. We have 26.6% saying no policy yet, and only 5.8% saying no. So remote work future plans 2022 versus 2021. We see once again a sharp increase in the amount of studios who have been reported as saying yes, they will support remote work, a decrease in the amount of no official policies yet, and once again, a decrease in the amount of studios that said no. And to round out this category, what if your work preferences aren't met? So would you look for work elsewhere if your preferences are not met? And a reasonably large chunk of individuals said, yes, I will look for work elsewhere if my specific work environment preferences are not met. So speaking of leaving and looking elsewhere, we're going to talk about retention. So this year we see that about 31.8% of respondents said they got a new position within the last year between a 2021 survey and 2022 survey. This is a increase in people looking for new positions as compared to 2021, which only had 22.5% versus what we now have as 31.8%. Breaking this down across genders, we see for cisgendered men, blue representing 2022, orange once again representing 2021. Cisgender men have increased in terms of reporting new positions being acquired at 33.7, whereas 2021 was at 21.8%. Cisgendered women report a slight increase in amount of new positions at 30.3% as compared to 27.8%. But for non-cisgendered individuals, we actually see a pretty sharp decrease in amount of new positions reported from 33.3% to 17.9% in 2022. Now, just looking at this also geographically, we can see for Europe, orange representing 2021, blue representing 2022. We see a slight increase in the amount of new positions acquired in this last year. And for North America, we see a sharp increase in new positions acquired between last year's survey and this year's survey, going from 22.9% to 34.3%. And just breaking this down, for individuals who did actually report moving to a new position, what their current job satisfaction is, and then comparing that between the 2 years, we see that the distribution for 2021 and 2022 are comparably the same, I should say. There's not much difference within each satisfaction category and the satisfaction level per year. And also, it should be noted that for the somewhat satisfied category, once again, that is the highest level of respondents who also said they got a new job. And something that I think should be talked about is how does pay change across the number of studios worked at? When we see at the one studio range, we're looking at about $60,000 on average, going all the way to the 10 plus range, with a little bit of limited data in the 8 to 9 studio range. That's why we see a bit of a dip here. It's a bit volatile. But in that 10 plus, going all the way to $140,000 to $150,000 range. Now, you might say, well, of course, if they work at more studios, that probably means they're holding a higher job and they've had more years of experience. However, we get to our second analysis where we control just for that. So, is there a significant difference in salary between the amount of studios a person has worked at, statistically controlling for numbers of years in the industry? So, taking out the factor of years of experience and therefore probably what position they hold in the hierarchy of the studio. So, for this, I conducted a one-way ANCOVA, another stats analysis. And results indicated that individuals who reported working at 4+ studios had a significantly higher full-time employment salary on average than those who had worked at 3 or less. Once again, this is controlling for years of experience in the games industry. So it does seem like after partialing out the effect that experience and what the position you hold has on salary, that going to different studios and being externally hired may in fact be a better tactic at getting a higher salary. That's just what I said right here. Now, I thought this was interesting, but then I noticed that for a little bit more support to this argument, this is a poll. One of the questions was reasons for leaving the individual's previous position. To see it that the highest reported option for this question is better pay. So this really lends credence to that idea and the analysis results that being hired externally might yield better offers in terms of pay than internal promotion. And I just want to do another quick analysis for this category. This is leaving jobs and satisfaction. The question being, is there a significant difference in job satisfaction between individuals who did not change jobs this year versus those who did change jobs this year? So for this is a one-way ANOVA, another stats analysis. And results indicated that individuals who did change jobs reported a significantly higher satisfaction on average than those who did not, by about 0.4 points. As you remember, this is a 5-point satisfaction scale from not very satisfied to very satisfied. So by about half a level of satisfaction is what we're looking at here. It's not much, but it is a statistically distinct one. And these are just the figures for that analysis if you wanted to look over it yourself. As we wrap up near the end here, we're just going to talk about a few miscellaneous figures that I have noticed while doing this data. First up is gender by years in the industry. If you remember all the way to the beginning of this presentation, cisgendered women and non-cisgender individuals were pretty what we call right-censored. They didn't go all the way to the end of the categories as compared to cisgendered men. And when you break this down into the years of experience and see how many of each are reported working or reported having that amount of years of experience, you start to get an idea why. Starting from less than 1 year of experience, we see almost equal amounts of individuals who reported being cisgendered men and cisgendered women, with 19% being non-cisgendered individuals. And you can see cisgendered women and non-cisgendered individuals decreasing as you move across the brackets of years of experience until we get to the 25+ years and it's 100% response rate of cisgendered men. But let's break this down even further. This is per graphic how it's looking right now between 2021 and 2022 for each gender group. We see, starting with the top left here, non-cisgendered individuals. So from less than 1 year all the way to 16 to 20 being the last reported group for 2022. We see there's more people, non-cisgendered individuals in the less than 1 year group and then also in the 1 to 5 year group, 6 to 10 year group, 11 to 15 year group. And it seems like, at least compared to 2021, this is the first time we're seeing non-cisgendered individuals in that 16 to 20 year group. And something similar can be said about cisgendered women. We're seeing more cisgendered women enter the field with that less than 1 year of experience. Although we are seeing a little bit less per category after that until we get to that 21 to 25 year mark, which actually means that at least compared once again to 2021, we are actually seeing more categories open up and more experience for cisgendered women happening in the industry. Now, for cisgendered men, a little bit of the converse can be seen. So for less than 1 year of experience, we see a sharp decline as compared to last year, which was 77.8%, versus what is this year's 42.3%. We see an average reporting amount for 1 to 5 years, and then keep on going up until you get to that 25 plus years, which in 2021 was also 100%, and this year is also 100% in 2022. So this is a bit of a miscellaneous. I'm going to be jumping around topics a bit, talking about DCC use in 2022. Maya is the largest DCC being used, at least by our response rate. We also have Motion Builder, then Blender, then 3ds Max. We have engines used in 2022. Between Unreal and proprietary, that's the majority of what individuals used. Then Unity and that other category only representing 0.6% of this sample. And we have studios worked by years of experience. So each one of these points represents the average amount of studios worked per each year of experience. So for less than 1 year, we see it's about 1. That jumps up by roughly 1 year, 1 to 5 years of experience. That goes to 3 to 4 years for the 6 to 10 years of, or 3 to 4 studios for the 6 to 10 years of experience. 11 to 15 years, we see 4 years. 16 through 20, we see roughly 5 years. For 21 to 25, we see roughly 6 years. And for the over 25 years of experience, on average, we see 7 studios, I should say. And this is just a breakdown of that one, but I see we're kind of getting close to the end of our time here, so we're going to speed through that one, because I also wanted to share this information with you. And this is, once again, years of experience, but average titles shipped by years of experience. So for less than 1 year, we're seeing less than 1 title on average being shipped. For 1 to 5 years, we see roughly 1 title being shipped. 6 to 10 years, we see 3 titles. 11 to 15, 4, same thing for 16 through 20, all the way to over the 25 years, which is roughly about 7 titles shipped in that 25 years of experience. I would like to know, especially for this one, if that matches up to your experience. And we have favorite stage of the process. And as we can see here, overwhelmingly prototyping is our respondents' most favorite stage of the process, followed loosely by the final stage of the development process, then concept, then directing, then production. So what kind of animation work do we do in our free time? The majority responded with animation exercises, then online courses, then technical animation, indie game development, technical animation runtime, programming short films, and VFX. And where do we want to go in our careers? Well, senior and principal is the largest category with 42.9% of responses, followed by discipline lead or director, followed by game creative director, followed by producer, freelancer, game design, and we also have indie game dev. So to wrap up this presentation, I think one of the takeaways most important about this is that even though we have the largest crop we've had yet of respondents, the largest sample size, we can always use more. Limited data, we got limited data in regions outside of North America and Europe, and limited responses from veterans in the games animation industry and higher level positions. We need more responses of people from all walks of life, the veterans, people of different genders, of ethnicities, and of living in different geographical areas. More representation in the community and more data and analysis can be done if more people respond to this survey. So please spread the word, get your coworkers and friends involved in the games industry, games animation industry. And please fill out our 2023 survey. So what is next? Talking about that 2023 survey. Well, that survey is going to go out about mid-January of 2023. We are planning on making it a more streamlined survey. It's going to be a bit more time efficient for you, which also means a faster turnaround for us to design the report. Make sure that, factors such as work from home are a bit more accurate to the current time and place. And with that faster turnaround, like I said, more timely and accurate reports. In the meantime, if you could take our survey about the survey that you've already taken, that survey also covers how you feel about this presentation today. This tells us your thoughts and allows you to recommend additions or changes to how we recorded and presented the information, and help us make 2023 survey the best yet. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, what an incredible presentation. Adam, thank you so much. We're going to dive into some Q&A here in one sec, but before that, can we please get some hearts, some emojis, like anything you want in the chat. Show Adam what a wonderful job he did. I loved this. I took so many notes. I cannot wait for the discussion, the roundtable after this. Wow. Sorry. I'm like feeling it. If you have any questions, chat. Please make sure that you tag AnimState so I can really clearly see it. I will definitely prioritize the questions that pop up in there. People were very engrossed. The only true chat question that I saw that was not even a true question per se, but I do want to just call it out quickly. It was from Omukase at the beginning when you mentioned your title. Did you say psychometric?
Psychometric, yes.
What is that? Can you define what that means?
Sure. So it's a crazy term. I love saying it, first off. But psychometric and psychometricians, anything dealing with that, is really how do you measure psychological concepts? Like how do you measure depression, or even things like how's the best way to design a survey? If you break down the word, you have the psycho part and the metrics part, so measurement.
Fantastic. So one question I sort of want to ask up top is why is a survey like the Anim State of the Industry Survey important?
This allows the community a chance to really take stock of where they are as a whole, and allows for the presentation of reliable data on that topic so that action can be taken further along if action does need to be taken to either improve or maybe increase inclusivity of the industry.
Yeah, definitely. I saw a lot of comments in chat. Ancient Friend 404 says, my boss is in trouble. And I feel that, but hopefully it really means that your company will be in a better place for the data. Question in chat from Lucky D. Was this survey mainly focused on desktop games, or was it a mix of desktop and mobile games companies?
Excellent question. We actually did get a fair amount of respondents who say that they work on mobile games as well. So one of the questions that didn't really make or one of the data features that didn't make the cut this time around was the that representation of AAA versus indie versus mobile versus the other category being live service. But we did get a fair amount.
From Kim L1N asks, what currency are these stats based on? US dollars?
It is US dollars, correct.
Tyler the Animator says, how will streamlining the survey next year affect the data output?
Honestly, I believe so. For those individuals who took the survey this year, notice there's quite a few questions on this. By streamlining this process, sorry, I've been talking for a second. By streamlining this process, this allows you to, not get worn out, because everyone, including myself, gets tired of answering question after question after question. And by going back through and streamlining, we can ask more accurate questions, make sure there's less of a chance for misunderstanding of what the question wants you wants of you, I should say. It's going to overall improve accuracy, the speed of the survey for you taking it. And by condensing the questions on my side of things, it allows for that faster analysis and crunch, less data preparation. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler, you can let me know in chat if you need clarification,
Please.
but I think that's a fantastic answer. So, something that I'm interested in
Hmm.
is looking towards the future and considering the categories that we talked about in this survey.
Hmm.
What would we want to look at or be getting from the next survey? Like, what are the types of things that we want to keep track of going forward?
Yeah, definitely. So we saw a lot of factors, affecting job satisfaction, and from doing that analysis in the satisfaction section of this presentation, I don't believe we have to do the same analysis over and over again, but it would be worthwhile taking stock and not disregarding those factors, but just adding year after year after year on those bar graphs, basically, making sure that we're keeping those at or above the level at which they are in 2022.
Yeah, definitely. Would it even be worth it, uh, or would it be part of the survey going forward to see, like, if people referenced the previous survey in their numbers
Hmm.
to see, like, over time, if people who reference the survey in their workplace, like, satisfaction goes up, they can maybe make positive change? Would that be something that'd be worth tracking, or does that make filling out the survey more intimidating for people?
Uh, in terms, sorry, I might be misunderstanding. Like filling out the survey within the studio.
Or having a question on the survey asking if people talked about the previous year's results with their teams.
That would actually be a very great addition, I feel. Actually being able to measure some sort of impact from this survey. And if we could actually find out what people talked with their teams about specifically from this survey, we can get an even better idea with that feedback of what we need to focus on next time around, which, once again, just a plug for the survey that we're going to have at the end of this is focused on is your feedback.
I have two questions that are somewhat related in chat. One from Costavo89. Will this stream be recorded for us to rewatch again? It sure will be. It'll be up as a VOD on our Twitch channel for, I think, 14 days, but we will also download it and have it uploaded to the animation, I think it's the Animation Exchange YouTube channel. And then Emily Juliet asks, will the PowerPoint be available after the stream? Which I forget.
It will be. Yeah.
Great. So, having a question on the future survey about did people talk with their teams is great to sort of get that data. But do you
Hmm.
actually think that it's valuable for folks to talk about these results with their teams and with their managers?
Yes, I 100% believe it would be valuable. I tried to stress it a bit during some of the compensation parts, but just calling back to talking about the average contractor rate per years of experience, being like even the people who are with less than 1 year of experience in the industry are on average getting above less than $25 an hour. It's important to have these metrics and to have bargaining tools in general when going into these meetings with your lead or director and whoever's in charge of your growth and or salary within the studio.
Definitely. What if I can just sort of pair it back to you what you just said? I believe it was get that paper, fam. Is that how you might say that for the
Sure.
kids in the room?
Hmm. Yeah,
Perfect.
totally.
Um, so thinking about the survey and refining it,
Hmm.
one of the things that I think is interesting is that there can be sort of bad surveys and good surveys. What do you think makes a good survey?
Yeah, I would say there's about three different factors that contribute to what is a good survey. The first one being context. Is a survey the right thing for what you're trying to investigate or find out? In the case of what we're trying to do and looking forward to the future, we're going to be making sure that the factors that we're trying to observe and or measure are specifically suited for survey work instead of, interviews, focus groups, that kind of idea. Maybe in the future, Um, but also making a good survey, making sure that the questions are extremely understandable. There's no room like using there's there's no room for misunderstanding of the survey questions. Um, that also includes not using slang or jargon that's area specific. Um, and also making sure you have the Goldilocks length for the survey. You don't want too short to lose information, but if you ask too many questions, people are going to jump ship pretty fast, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
The I think the jargon one in particular is a challenging one for game dev. At least I know at the company I work at, it's like handing somebody a dictionary when they start, and I think the industry as a whole is kind of like that as well.
Yeah, 100%.
We have a question in chat from Lucky D. On the
hmm
salary statistics, do those numbers also factor in stock options?
For anything that's labeled FTE salary, we are just looking at the specific salary, like hourly rate or salary rate for the individual. We're not actually looking at the total compensation or compensation by itself, which would be like stock options or annual bonus, that kind of idea. So no.
But I do believe there were other slides that did say,
Yes,
I think it was in the inequality slides that said the total compensation and what types of additional compensation people got.
correct.
Yeah. So Lucky D, if
Thank
you're,
you. Thank you for the
oh
clarification.
yeah, no worries. So Lucky D, if you're interested into seeing what additional sort of salary options that people are even having available to them, that would be a great place to take a look after the PowerPoint is back up online. Black Box asks, I can't remember, but did we have any questions in the survey about hiring processes or tests, number of interviews, length of interview, number of interviewees, etc.?
No, we didn't actually, and making this face because that would be a interesting line of reasoning to go down and to investigate as well. Um, that's definitely a potential factor we could look at next year, though. Make sure to put it in the feedback survey.
Definitely. The feedback survey, I assume, is being tweeted out from the AnimState Twitter, but
hmm
you can also see the Moo bot in chat has posted it a couple times as an auto post. Maybe I can quickly find it and post the link. I will in a moment. Or maybe one of the other, Julie or Mike, if you want to post that link quickly, would be awesome. Um, Make sure you fill out that survey, especially with questions that you want to see on the next year's stream. It'd be great to know where to expand. And especially because hiring practices was one of the things that was like a key struggle on this year's survey. It'd be great to dig more into that for sure. So one of the things that stuck out to me as like a very particular detail was on one of the slides you mentioned in social science terms that 43% is quite a big number. So when you're talking about making predictions, what is sort of the margin of numbers you would usually anticipate, and what would you still consider a significant prediction?
Yeah, so that's based on something called an R square estimate. Without going too far into what that means, um, it's really talking about how much variance of whatever your predictor or predicted factor is. So in this case, it's job satisfaction. How much of it is predicted by the variance of your other predictors of your actual model, rather. Pardon me one sec. Just gotta. Sorry about
No
that.
worries.
So usually with social sciences, we would say a pretty good R square being in the 20% range. So when we see 40 to above that, we're like, wow, this amount of human behavior can be predicted, 43% of it can be predicted by just this amount of factors. That's pretty crazy.
Uh, that's fantastic, and it's so fun, and it also makes me feel like an animal. When I see things and I'm like, that is how I would behave, and you're like, well, I predicted it with some data. I'm like, oh, that's I get it, I get it. I'm just a
Yeah.
creature. So so when you're looking at, you mentioned like the types of analysis that you were using at the end, you'd be like, using this, we created this model.
Hmm.
Um, are the tools that you use fundamentally important to getting a first read on the data, or do you usually start with a theory and then dive into the tools and different analysis approaches from there?
Yeah, I'm actually going to quote my old grad advisor. Social sciences are about 20% skill, 80% intuition sometimes.
Mm.
Um, Actually, he probably said 40-60, but I'm going to keep my estimates. Um, Really, it like that 20% is really knowing how to operate and knowing what's going on in the statistical black box. But 80% is that 80% really is talking about like, well, I bet this factor does this, so I'm going to run this analysis to show it, that kind of idea. So having contact experts such as yourselves and talking about the roundtable as well discuss what these findings say actually breathe a lot of life and experience, firsthand experience, into what we're talking about today. So I'm a big advocate of people in the industry doing uh, or helping do the research itself.
Yeah, yeah, that
Does
makes sense.
that, sorry, did that answer everything?
Oh, absolutely, definitely.
Wonderful.
I only have one more little question here. So, this is my final prompt to the chat to say if you have any final questions for Adam, please let me know. Uh, but all of this is really fascinating. It's so cool to see data come together and to cross reference it in this way to like show any amount of change over time with anything.
Hmm.
Obviously, you have studied this and this is your craft, your expertise. But if people were interested in learning more about data science and the techniques that you use here, what kind of things would you suggest?
Yeah, definitely. So beyond, like a college or whatever, there are plenty of online resources to look at simple statistics, looking at data visualization. R, it's a software language, literally just goes by the letter R. Is free. If you want to pick that up, learn it as a pretty simple syntax, and you can start making your own graphs, doing some simple analyses, that kind of idea. Um, it's definitely out there. It's definitely accessible. It just takes a bit of time to get used to. And even things like Excel has its own stats package, and it's actually pretty good for visualizations as well. So those are some tools I recommend.
Wonderful. Uh, and you obviously are a data scientist. You had your handle up on the end of your presentation there, but if somebody wanted to say ask you another question, perhaps via Twitter,
Sure.
what would your handle be?
Yeah, it would be at uh, capital A1, capital C1, ARK, A1 Clark.
Uh, Beautiful. Um, so I did see a couple more questions in chat here.
Hmm.
One was from asterisk 49. Hello, Eric. I definitely remember you from school. Do you want rigging info or just animation stuff? Trying to figure out if I should fill out the survey.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Do you want rigging information or just animation stuff? So, Eric, you're a technical artist. I
Ah,
suppose I could answer this. We definitely want tech artists to fill out the survey as well. There's definitely space to. It's everybody under the sort of animation umbrella
hmm.
within game development. So that includes technical animators, technical artists, animators, people in leadership roles, and programming as well. Sorry, I just sort of answered that one myself.
No, you're great.
A question here from Michael SQ. Would you be able to tell us how our industry compares to the tech industry as a whole?
No. I'm sorry. I'm not going to extend it if I don't know the answer to it. I haven't really done much research into the tech industry as a whole, although that could be something of interest to look at. I have been, as I've gone through and uh, doing all these analyses and looking at the information, talking to individuals within different departments and sections of the games development industry. And I will say that the games animation industry is not alone in these struggles. My lovely fiance is a technical sound designer and implementer. I'm sure I butchered that title, but She comes in, she looks at the data, she's like, ha ha, we do that kind of deal. Or that's happening here. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse.
Yeah.
So at least there is comparability. Sorry, don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, not at all.
Within the games industry with some of these factors.
Yeah, I do think that it would be something interesting to look at going forward, Michael. Or maybe it could be, I'm going to stick with Michael. Because like our hiring pool, I know so much is sort of like a big Venn diagram with the tech industry. I think maybe if there's a world where we're able to sort of like blow this survey up into like more and more respondents, we might need more and more categories to in order to capture the people who are actually responding. If there's a world where, let's say, we're getting 1,000+ respondents to the survey, is including roles like questions that say, are you in the games industry? Are you in the tech industry? Would that end up splitting the survey into two different kind of surveys that would chart those two industries, or would there be a lot of crossover, do you think, Adam?
I think it would have both, honestly. You would start with the first question, being like, hey, do you work in industry or games? And then from there, you will be fed to a different survey with sections that are exactly the same for each survey so that there are comparable factors for each.
Yeah.
But that would also then necessitate, multiple presentations probably.
Yeah.
Call it Animation Week or something.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm so jazzed up from all this data. I'm not seeing any more additional questions roll into the chat. And so, with this, can we please get one more round of emojis in the chat for Adam? Hearts, fires, whatever you feel. The data, it has consumed me. I can't wait to talk more about it as a part of our game development roundtable. Adam, amazing presentation. Cannot tell you how much we appreciate your time and effort that you put into this.
Oh, thank you so much. I was very happy to take this on.
Perfect. Well, chat, don't go anywhere because this is just the first half of our Anim State of the Industry watch party. Right after this, we're taking a teeny tiny break and then we'll be on the line with our Game Developers React roundtable, including the wonderful Adam Clark is joining us there as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.